back, friends. So currently we are discussing about performance appraisal, an important function of the human resource management department in any organization, because that is how an organization differentiates its employees. They come to know about the level of performance of the employees, and they also tend to know that who are the ones who are not performing up to the mark, who needs to be trained. So we have learned about the objectives of performance appraisal, what are the characteristics of an effective appraisal process, and then we learnt about the various stages in the performance appraisal system. So moving further, let's now discuss about how to design an appraisal program, or what are the things that you need to keep in mind as an HR professional while designing an appraisal program. So here are certain questions that we shall be answering when we are designing an appraisal program for the people. So the first question is whether it would be a formal or an informal appraisal, whose performance is to be assessed or evaluated, who are the raters who are going to evaluate the employees, then what problems are encountered, that is what are the challenges that we face while evaluating or appraising our employees, and then once these problems are recognized, how to solve the problems, then what should be evaluated. We must have a clarity as to what should be evaluated, and then when to evaluate, the time frame of evaluation or appraisal, and what are the methods of appraisal that can be used for appraising the performance of the employees. So these are the questions that we will be answering. We will be understanding each one of them in detail. So coming to the first question, formal or informal appraisal. Well, for that we need to understand what is formal and what is an informal appraisal. So as far as a formal appraisal is concerned, it usually occurs at specified time periods like once or twice a year, and are most often required by the organization for the purpose of employee evaluation. So this is the most commonly done appraisal once or twice a year. The second one is the informal performance. It occurs when the supervisor feels the need for communication. So for example, there is some new project and you need to decide as to who would be the people who would be taking up these projects. So you need to appraise or evaluate the current level of performance of your employees, so that you can grant that particular project to that team who are performing well. So you just need a quick appraisal or quick assessment of the current employees. Then whose performance should be rated? So is it individual performance or are we talking of team performance? So another very important question is that who are we rating? We are rating individuals or we are rating teams. So specifically the ratee can be defined as the individual, it can be a group, it can be a division, or it can be an organization also. So under some conditions it may be desirable to appraise the performance both at the work group level for merit pay increases and at the individual level to assess the training needs. So when we talk of that whose performance should be rated, it can be either individual or group, or it can be both. At individual level it is done so that the ratee can assess my training needs, and at a group level to assess the performance so that some pay hike may be given to the entire work group. Then who are the raters? Who are going to appraise? Who are going to evaluate? That is also very important for us to understand. So these raters or the evaluators, they can be the immediate supervisors, they can be specialists from the HR department, they can be your subordinates, your peers, then there can be committees that are specially formed to rate individuals or groups, then there can be clients or customers who will be rating you as an individual, then there can be self appraisals, that is you yourself appraising your performance, that is how you rate yourself as far as the performance is concerned, or there can be a combination of several methods, or several people can be rating an individual. So let's learn what are the advantages or disadvantages and what are the generic features. So let's talk of immediate supervisor. So I think this immediate supervisor is the most fit candidate to appraise the performance of his or her subordinates, and these are the three reasons that support the fact that immediate supervisor is the best person to evaluate you, because no one is more familiar with the subordinate's performance than his or her superior, because that is the one person we spend most of our time with. So he is the one who knows us in and out, he is the one who knows all our strengths and weaknesses. So that is why we say that the immediate supervisor is the best person to evaluate. Then secondly, the superior has the responsibility of managing a particular unit, and when the task of evaluating a subordinate is given to another person, the superior authority may be undermined seriously. Now as an employee, if my boss or my supervisor is not evaluating me, but some XYZ person from any other department is evaluating my performance, then obviously my perception of my superior would be dampened. So I will not take him as seriously as if he would be evaluating me. And finally, the training and development of subordinates is an important element in every manager's job. So if my performance is not up to the mark, it is for my boss, my supervisor to know that I am underperforming, and it is for him to decide that I need to be trained on particular skills or software, for example. So if somebody else is assessing me or rating me or evaluating me, then my manager or my boss will not understand my weaknesses. So that is why we say that the immediate supervisor is the best person to evaluate the subordinates. Then we also say that the subordinates can assess the performance of their superiors. So this is the other way round. So subordinates can assess their superiors. So the use of this choice may be useful in assessing an employee's ability to communicate, to delegate work. It can be done to assess the leadership skills of the superior, or allocation of resources, so that is he being fair while the resources are being allocated, or is there certain biases there. Dissemination of information, is complete information being given to the subordinates or not. Then resolve interpersonal conflict, how is the superior handling conflicts, how is he managing difference of opinions of the subordinates, is he able to resolve these conflicts in an amicable manner or not, and how is he dealing with the employees on an overall basis, is he fair while dealing with the employees, or are there certain partialities. So that is the reason why subordinates can also rate or assess the performance of their superiors. Then comes the peers. Now peers are the people who are working with you, they are your colleagues, your friends at the workplace. So they are in a very good position, I would say, to evaluate certain aspects of the job performance which the subordinates or supervisors cannot do. So such facts include the contribution to work group projects, interpersonal effectiveness, communication skills, reliability and initiative. So these are the aspects that maybe neither the subordinate nor my supervisor can come to know, that how am I as a team player, am I good at doing my work when I am working with team, am I respecting my team members, am I open with them, do I trust my team members, what is the level of my communication with them, am I communicating with them in an open and honest transparent manner, am I a reliable person. So all these aspects of my performance will be understood well by my peers and not the supervisors. Then the closeness of the working relationship, the amount of personal contacts place peers in a better position to make the accurate assessments. So, this is what exactly I was stating, that sometimes your peers are the better judge to evaluate you. Then comes the clients. So, clients can also be used as a source to collect information or to evaluate you, especially when we talk of the service sector where the employees are in direct contact with the clients or the customers. So, the members within the organization having a direct contact with the ratee, and they make use of an output like the goods or the services this employee provides. So, interest, courtesy, dependability, innovativeness are a few of the qualities for which clients can offer the rating information, that is how much of interest you show while you are dealing with your client, how much of courtesy do you display, can the client or can the customer depend on you, how innovative you are while serving your clients. So, all these aspects are something that can be evaluated very well by the clients you are serving. Now, coming to the next aspect of the performance appraisal design is the problems of rating. This is very crucial because the performance appraisals are subject to a wide variety of inaccuracies and biases which are referred to as rating errors. That is, we commit certain mistakes while we are rating the employees. These errors, they occur in the rater's observations, judgment, information processing, but they can seriously affect the assessment results of an employee. So, an employee who is performing well might be rated low, or an employee who is not working well or performing well might be rated higher. So, that is the problem of rating. So, let us define rating error. So, rating error is the difference between the output of a human judgment process and that of an objective, accurate assessment which is uncolored by bias, prejudice or other subjective extraneous influences. So, as human beings we do have biases, as human beings we do have prejudices, we tend to follow certain stereotypes, we are subjective and we are many a times under the influence of external factors. So, these factors can color our judgment. So, that is what we call as the rating error, that is how different or how deviated my assessment is from the actual assessment or the actual performance of an employee. So, we are going to learn a number of such errors, the first one being leniency or severity. So, these are two terms, first is leniency and the second is severity. Leniency means that you are lenient, you are being very lenient while rating an employee. Severity is the opposite of leniency, that is you are being too harsh or too hard while assessing. So, leniency or severity on the part of the rater, they makes assessment subjective, and subjective assessment, it defeats the very purpose of performance appraisal, but it is very difficult to set aside subjective assessment from performance appraisals. So, ratings are lenient for the following reasons. So, why at times the rater, they rate at a very in a lenient manner. So, the rater may feel that anyone under him rated unfavorably will reflect poorly on his own worthiness. So, it is just like imagine a teacher. So, she wants that all the students of her class should pass because otherwise that will reflect on her teaching ability. So, that is why she gives good marks to all the students, because if the principal comes to know that 30 students out of 40 have failed, then it will reflect the teaching skills of that teacher. So, she is being lenient and she marks everyone good marks. So, that is the leniency. Then he may feel that anyone who could have been rated unfavorably has already been discharged from the company. So that is also another reason why we are lenient, because we are under the impression that if we mark someone very harshly, he or she may be discharged from the or terminated from the company. So we do not want that to happen. So that is why as a supervisor I would be lenient. Then he or she may rate leniently in order to win promotions for the subordinates. So at times we want to make that relationship with our subordinate, that we want them to have promotions so that we can have a better hold over them. So that is also one of the reasons why raters give a lenient feedback. Then he or she may feel it necessary to always approve of others in order to gain approval for himself or herself. So this is a pure human psychology, that we always want to be appreciated, we always want to be in good books of people around us. So if as a supervisor I am giving very harsh appraisals to my people, then obviously they would not like me as an individual or as a supervisor. So if I want to gain their trust, I want to gain their confidence, and I want to have good relations with them, I would be giving them lenient feedbacks. So that is one of the reasons, some of the reasons of leniency. Next comes severity. Now severity refers to being unduly critical of an employee's performance. That is, this is the complete opposite of leniency. Now we are being overcritical and we are being very harsh while judging the employee's performance. And many firms, you know, what happens is that they put a cap on the number of employees being rated as outstanding, because they have to decide on the pay hike. So everybody cannot get a pay hike. So if say just 2% of the employees would be getting a pay hike, so that means only 2% people should be the ones who are outstanding. Rest everybody will be the underperformance, and that is why the rater has to adopt severity. So they have to be very critical and they have to be very harsh while evaluating the performances. So here they ensure that evaluation inflation, it does not creep into the process of appraisal. So that was severity and leniency. The next rating error is central tendency. Now central tendency, it occurs when employees are incorrectly rated near average or middle of scale. So everybody is satisfactory, and you might have read this on your character certificates, where each individual, each student of the class gets a satisfactory or an average comment by the teacher. So that is central tendency, when you are unable to differentiate. So this safe playing attitude, it stems from certain doubts and anxieties which raters have while assessing the ratees. So raters use expression as satisfactory, average to describe the performance. So they won't say that it is good, they won't say it is bad, they would just express it as satisfactory or average, and that is the safe playing. The next error is the halo error. So it takes place when one aspect of an individual's performance, it influences the evaluation of the entire performance of the individual. So when an employee who works late constantly might be rated high on productivity and quality of the output. Similarly, an attractive or popular employee might be given a high overall rating. Now let's understand this with an example, that being punctual and being productive are two different traits. For example, an employee reaches the office well in time or in advance. So the office starts at 9, but he is there at 8:45. So this is his punctuality. But the employer or the supervisor thinks that since he is very punctual to his duty, very punctual to reach his organization, he must be a very productive or a high performer. So being punctual and being productive are two different traits. But when we assume or when we have this influence of one trait impacting the other trait, that is called a halo error. So, punctuality being confused with being more productive is an example of halo error. So, similarly, somebody who is very attractive might be given a high overall rating, thinking that he would be a very dedicated person or his output would be very high. So, this is again an example of halo error when one trait impacts the other traits. The next one is the rater effect. Now, this includes favoritism, stereotyping and hostility. So, I have already emphasized on the fact that we as human beings do have our favorites, and we do have an impact of stereotyping. So, this can be, you know, excessively high or low scores are given only to certain individuals or groups based on the rater's attitude towards the ratee and not the actual outcome of or their behaviors. So, these can be certain effects that where the ratee belongs to my city or the ratee is from my alma mater. So, I would be biased, I would be he would be my favorite. So, as a supervisor I would be giving him good rates. So, that is the rater effect. Then is the primacy and recency effects, another very important rating error. So, here the raters' ratings are heavily influenced either by behavior exhibited by the ratee during the early stages of the review period, that is primacy, or by the outcomes or behavior exhibited by the ratee near the end of the review period, that is the recency. So, let us understand this with the help of an example. So, for example, if a salesperson captures an important contract or sale just before the completion of the appraisal, the timing of this incident may inflate his or her standing, and even though through the entire year his performance has been low, but the ratee would forget that and his recent success would make him a more a better rated. Likewise, a blunder committed just before the appraisal period may diminish the chances of securing a favorable rating even if the performance is good. So, there can be another example where through the entire year or through the entire rating period the employee was performing well, but just before the appraisal period he committed some mistake. So, the supervisor will just remember the last mistake that he committed, and it would be clouded by the overall good performance that he had given during the entire period. So, this is how the ratee can be misjudged. Then next is the perceptual set. So, this occurs when the rater's assessment is influenced by previously held beliefs. So, our preconceived notions or previously held beliefs also impact our the decisions that we take today. So, if the supervisor, for example, has a belief that employees hailing from one particular region are intelligent and hardworking, his subsequent rating of the employee hailing from that particular region will always tend to be favorably high. So, this is again a very subjective thing that that creeps into when we are assessing or evaluating any particular individual. The next is the spillover effect, and this refers to allowing the past performance appraisal ratings to unjustifiably influence the current ratings. So, the evaluator might be just going through your past ratings and he continues with those ratings and gives you the current rating also based on your past ratings. But it is quite possible that you are performing better than last time, or it can be the reverse, you are performing less than what you were performing in the past. So, past ratings, good or bad, result in similar rating for current period, although demonstrated behavior does not deserve rating good or bad. So, this is known as the spillover effect. Next is the error of wishful thinking. So, where a conclusion is drawn not on facts, very important. So, whatever conclusion we are drawing, it is not based on any facts, but on the expectations and desired objectives of the evaluation process. This can be a powerful error when we are evaluating the performance of the individuals, because here we are not, our decisions are not based on the decisions are not based on any facts or figures of the case, but the expectations and what we think, what we wish to happen. So, it is not the rater's errors alone that are barriers to accurate and valid measurement of employee performance. These barriers, they lie deep within the genetic and acquired makeup of all people concerned with the performance appraisal. As I already stated, that we are human beings and we get influenced by so many things. It can be our own belief system, it can be certain external factors. So, a wide variety of emotional, psychological, intellectual and physical factors that at first glance may appear to be separate and irrelevant, they may combine in any number of ways during the appraisal process to completely neutralize any program designed to measure employee performance. And that is how all these errors that we talked of, they completely fail the purpose of performance appraisal. And that is why we said that when we talk of appraising the performance of the employee, we should make it bias free, we should make it less subjective. So, friends, today we discussed about a very important aspect of human resource management, that is performance appraisal, that is how an employee's performance can be differentiated from others and how the performance appraisal itself can be a source of competitive advantage for any organization. Then we learned what makes an appraisal program effective, so that it is easily implemented, easily understood by the employees, and so that the employees can perform up to the mark. We learnt about the process, the various steps involved in the process of evaluation of performance appraisal, and then we are learning certain questions that come to our mind when we are designing an appraisal program for the organization. So, we will continue with this in the next couple of lectures. Thank you.